Okay, and then next hand, standard open with the ace-4, and folds. And another benefit of playing aggressive is, you know, particularly with when he was limping in on us, we were ISOing him. So we'll get a few more walks, and walks are incredibly valuable because, you know, other than our big blind, there's 22,500 out there. So over a big blind that we just win when they just fold the small blind. And now when you get dealt aces, that only makes about 10 blinds. You know, all situations combined, you'll make 10 blinds. So if you can make over a tenth of aces without doing anything, like you're not risking anything, it's really, really profitable. So even if that happens a little bit more often because of your aggression, you know, that's a real added bonus of being aggressive. Right, ace jack here. And then another bonus is some of the hands where, or some people, they will shift some of their raises to instead limps because they're predicting that you're going to be 3-betting them a lot. And so their defense against that is to limp a bit more. So if you have trashier hands here in the small blind, you can now limp along and see a flop. Whereas if they were raising, you wouldn't be able to see that flop. So that's kind of another benefit. And then, like in this situation here, we might not want to 3-bet if you raised. But when he limps, it kind of makes it a lot easier for us to raise and take control of the pot with like hands like this. So we do that here. And because, you know, if I had a bluff, I'd be doing a lot of c-betting, double barreling, triple barreling as a bluff. So my kind of, I mean, this is a strong hand, but it's not like the absolute nuts. And sometimes by the river, because of how people are playing in this situation, we just end up value towning ourselves by betting 3 streets. And so I don't mind starting with a check, just kind of finding out where we're at a little bit, because people's betting range is going to be a little bit weighted to better hands and not enough kind of air. And then their check back range is just going to be a bit weaker. So when he does check back, now we're super confident about our hand and we can just start going for some thick value. Okay, Queen Jack, standard open. Just go for the min raise because this guy's a bit shorter. Because he can check raises here on the flop, and we don't really want to kind of flip or anything like that, because then our stack size, you know, would be level with Storm if we lost it. And it just adds a little bit of deception as well. If we check back, we represent a value hand really well by checking back, so we can bluff very well on turns and rivers. And then if we hit, you know, we've got a little bit of deception. And we do hit, and so we're just now going to be going 2 streets for value. And just here, just really turning the screw, just opening as much as we can. Just getting loads and loads of folds. So I'm not going to stop really, like 7-4, we're going to be opening that till they really start to show an awful lot of resistance. Otherwise, it's just far too profitable, because we only, like when we raise this, we're raising about the size of the pot. And so we just need it to work 1 out 2 times, you know, even if we had no hand whatsoever. But when we do have a hand, we also have the added benefit of we can flop stuff, we can bluff them off post flop. So yeah, it's just incredibly profitable to just be opening. And yeah, you can just see how often they're folding. Okay, king 5. So just comes around to us. We could 3-bet here. Yeah, I wouldn't mind it for the same reasons as the ace-x we had earlier. But we can sort of mix it up. It's a bit of a weaker hand, so I don't mind just calling. He's kind of giving us a good price as well with the min raise. If he made it a bit bigger, maybe a 3-bet would be more appealing. And he checks back. You know, with the ICM considerations, you can be doing this with a slightly stronger hand than usual. But I don't expect people to be trapping too often like this. So, you know, people's check back ranges, I generally attack very, very wide anyway. If you add in all the ICM considerations, I want to attack it even harder. And then this is the type of turn which I'd be wanting to attack with some massive bets, because it's one of those turns which is going to leave him with either like a second parry, weak top pair, or like a pair and a gut shot, something like that, which are all kind of fairly easy calls to half pot or 2/3 pot. If we just make it like 1.5x, those hands really hate life. And we're kind of threatening that we could do another big bet on the river. And, you know, we do represent, you know, 2 pairs, maybe 7s, straights, stuff like that. And that's not even, you know, that won't necessarily enter their mind. They just kind of, they just get a bit scared by the sizing and don't necessarily think things through and just fold a bit too much. You know, he just doesn't want to play a big pot with us. Okay. Next hand. This spot here, it's a good hand, so we could call it, but with this guy with 11 blinds, he's gonna, if we call, he's gonna jam pretty often, and then we're just not gonna be able to see a flop or anything. 3-betting, we can kind of keep the pressure on him, stop him from opening so much theoretically, although he does keep opening. Yeah, just keep the pressure on him. He does find a 4-bet. I wouldn't let this deter me just yet. It's most likely still at this stage that that is just a hand. If we start to see it a lot, then he could well be playing back at us. But I would assume that it's a hand, because people are just allowed to pick up a hand. And yeah, I'm not going to let that change my game plan just yet. Okay. I'm getting another walk. And then next time we play ace jack, which we open, standard open, they just fold. 7-6, we're just gonna keep going with the raises. Yeah, unfortunately we do get 3-bet. He's going to 3-bet a reasonably wide range from the button. Jack. Raising this guy, it's just going to be a 3-bet for value. If we expected him to do an awful lot of 4-betting, we might be best off just calling. And even though he has 4-bets once, I'm not feeling that that's necessarily the case yet. With this board, 3-barrel bluffing doesn't seem so great, because by By the time we get to the river, our overpairs that we have the advantage with aren't necessarily going to be 3 streets for value. And because we can check call here, because we've got ace jack high and we've got the backdoor diamond draw, I kind of like playing it a bit different, playing it as a check call and representing hands that way. Like if we check and he checks back, I feel like we can represent hands very well, and he'll have defined his hand to some extent as well. So we check, he checks back, and I mean this is a perfect turn card because it looks like we have ace king a lot. It's just good for our range. Yes, we're going to go for a nice big bet. And then whatever we do with ace king, we're going to bet that sort of size on the river as well. And just put his kind of like 9-8 type hands in a close spot. Okay, next hand, 10-7. Okay, so standard open. We're going small because this guy is just going to be able to shove quite a bit. Queen 8, just continuing the opens. You know, hits some reasonable pairs, does this hand. Hits a straight. And we do get 3-bet jump by this guy first time, I think. So take note of that. Ace 8. This guy's limping into us again. We have like a value raise. Yeah, we just want to continue to deter him from limping into our big blind. Does call. We could make like a small bet here, expecting not to get check raised too often, or we can check back. A little bit of pot control. We check back, and then same sort of deal on turn. We could make a small bet. I don't mind just checking back though. Just sort of trying to get to showdown. And then yeah, that's like 2/3. I think we call here, but I'm not loving it at all, given how I think people play. Like if they have kind of a worse hand than us, that's still a value hand, I think they're just going to check it the vast majority of the time. It's going to have to be a very weak pair, you know, or just air to bluff. And when the board's like all these high cards, there's not that much air he can have, because he would have either folded or limp folded with a lot of his lower card combos. Add into that the fact that, you know, I don't think he's necessarily going to bluff with those hands anyway, or he might have bluffed the turn. So yeah, this is very close. I mean, we are still going to be chip leader even if we call and lose, which is good for us. But yeah, I wouldn't have minded a fold here actually. Do call, he has ace 10, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, 10-4. Yeah, the limp, and this is what I was saying before. If he raises, we just don't get to see a flop with this hand, but this hand we really enjoy seeing a flop. Like we can hit flush draws, you know, hit 2-pair, etc. We don't here, but that's fine. Goes check, check, check. Again, just to attack the those 1-pairy type hands. Again, it's a turn that hits people with like a pair and a gut shot an awful lot. We've also got a bunch of equity. So we go 1.5x, which 3, 4. So that would allow us to have about pot left against him, which we could shove on the river. And we could go like a decent over pot bet against this guy, which may even get him off like a hand like king queen, because there'll be a lot of ICM pressure on him. So, you know, obviously we represent hands perfectly fine. Ace 9, with them both under 20, quite like a jam. We could min raise. It does allow them to rejam with some hands that they can't call off versus the shove. Yeah, the downside of shoving is if this guy calls and we lose, we're kind of level with Storm. but I don't think he'll call off very often. Like, he does need to wake up with quite a good hand. So yeah, I like this. You both fold. Next time, Jack 7. Okay, we get a min raise. It's going to be quite a tight range. He's just been playing tight, and then it's got this guy behind him who's shorter than him. So it's not going to be that loose. Our Jacks and our 7s, when we hit a pair, can be quite dominated, obviously. We are getting a good price, so we could call. But yeah, if we hit a pair, we're going to pretty much get all the money in and lose quite a bit. Maybe not all the money in, but a decent chunk. And if we were to allow him to double up, then we'd be level with Storm. So, you know, I could go either way here. Certainly don't mind a fold. I'd rather kind of take down pots by opening than by defending there. So now we've got 3s. Standard open. This hand requires a turn of protection. Don't think he's going to be able to check raises too wide. It's a little bit our board. If we bet nice and small, we can just get him to call with like a 2 or an ace high that then won't necessarily turn into a bluff later on. People don't turn hands into a bluff enough. So we can just kind of stick in a small bet and then just check it down. Like, whereas if we check back, we don't get any protection. We signal to some extent the strength of our hand. Yeah, we just allow, like, for example, if we check back, we have diamonds, he bets the turn. Even if we manage to call, he bets the river. Well, here we would hit a diamond draw. But even if it wasn't a diamond, he could just bluff us off. We just kind of take control of the pot with not very much risk by betting small like that. Then on this river, if we were to call river bets, it would be against the hands like Jack 10, 10, 9. So when the Jack hits, it's just really bad for us. Like, you can have the spade draws, but you check raise a lot of them on the flop. As I say, I don't think a 2 will turn into a bluff enough. So yeah, just fold it. Maintain our chip lead as well. Okay, only just though. Okay, 10-7. Oh, another fold to us. Good to note the amount of times that is happening. Okay, here we could jam, put loads of pressure on him. But it's a lot to lose, basically. Like, we're only just ahead of Storm. We don't want to go down to 2 million. We've got control of this final table. We can apply a similar type of pressure just by going like 2.5x. We allow ourselves to have c-bets and barrels post-flop. We can go nice, because of the stack sizes, we can go a nice small size here, which, could still be our good hands. Like, there's no reason why we don't do this with like ace-king, ace-queen. So it applies the same amount of pressure. It's not like he can go crazy with his air against this, so he just has to fold his air. On the turn, we pick up a small diamond draw. Again, we can go small because of the stack sizes. Apply pressure to his king queen, king jack, his 3x. We don't need that much stuff to fold. And then even and his better ace-x will 3-bet jammed pre as well. He will erase the flop with some flush draws. Yeah, so I mean, like, even his weakest ace-x are not going to love it on the river as well. So like when we jam here, even a hand like ace-4 just really hates life. And this is a great example of how to kind of size so that you're getting great prices on earlier streets where they will fold enough, but you keep their range wide enough that by the time you get to the river, they just have enough stuff that really doesn't want to make a big hero call. Okay, so he folds.